Welcome again to Enhancing Your Online Course with Images and Icons. My name is Tracy Miller, and I'm the Online Teaching Coordinator in the Faculty Development Instructional Design Center at Northern Illinois University. I always like to start my workshops off with a bit of a way you can introduce yourself, and I want you to try it out right now. So what we're going to do is we're going to all add an emoji to the text chat area describing your mood today. And built into Blackboard, there's a couple of emojis to get you started. But actually, I have a resource for some expanded emojis. It's an emoji cheat sheet. And so go ahead. Jana says, I don't need sunglasses today. So I'm thinking her mood's a little dark because she wishes it was sunnier out. So anyone that wants to, again, try an emoji using the cheat sheet that I just sent out a link to, or just pick one out of the kind of immediately available ones. Try it out. Oh, nice one. Good one, John. I like it. Jackie seems very surprised, and Kevin sort of got a sarcastic wink. Jan's happy. Awesome. It sounds like we all have a variety of moods. So this is definitely a getting acquainted activity that you can use with your students if you are using a web conferencing service like Blackboard Collaborate, just to kind of break the mood at the beginning. Zoe, I like your stars. Oh, so Jan, yours was relaxed from the one. Okay, so you may not be happy, but you're definitely relaxed and maybe receptive of the information we're going to have today. Great start, everyone. So the next thing that I wanted to point out, it's an interesting way of using icons in Blackboard Collaborate, is at the top, if you're in the My Settings area, so that's that gear box at the end, you have the ability to kind of tell me your feelings right now. And I think the way these are used maybe outside of these happy, sad, confused faces is if you think I'm going too fast or too slow, you can use those icons, or maybe if you agree or disagree with something I'm saying. So if you get the opportunity to try those out, you can do so. Otherwise, we can keep communicating through the text chat with words or with emojis. It's all good. Okay, so I like to start off my workshops after the introduction with just kind of going over what my objectives are for the workshop. Keeps me focused, and it also lets you know kind of what's coming up. So I'm hoping that after we go through this workshop together, you'll be able to decide if visuals will enhance your course, identify some images and icons and where to find them, some different types, some different styles, be able to add images and icons into your course, and then also to allow your students to submit images and icons within your online course. So we will go ahead and get started. I hope everybody is kind of on the same page with what they were hoping we would cover in this workshop today. And I'll also say that sometimes I'll get criticism in my feedback from the surveys that, you know, this is definitely things you can do in your online course, but these also work in your face-to-face course. And I will openly admit to that right off the bat. These techniques and these strategies can definitely be used in your face-to-face course, or maybe even your technology-enhanced courses a little bit. There's nothing really that's going to be outside of that realm. So first, I really want to talk about how visuals influence learning. This is going to be our first sort of why. Why are we adding images and icons into our course? And we really want to be careful that it's going to influence our learning and it's not going to distract from the learning. And I've really taken a lot out of these slides that normally I would add a kind of a PowerPoint template or something. But I really wanted to kind of make the images and icons pop a little bit more so that, again, you're not distracted by maybe a really colorful PowerPoint presentation or something like that. So let's dig into how visuals really can influence your learning. And this is based off of a lot of research into what the, what's been done on visuals in online courses. First of all, we want to make sure that they are congruent with the text and relevant to the instructional purpose. So that whatever kind of visual you put on the page, it should really have a purpose for being on that page. And it really needs to mesh up with what the text is saying to the students also. So really think about that. How is this really going to enhance their language or clarify what the text is saying in some way? And that's really going to support rather than disrupt the learning. Sometimes you use a visual to draw attention to new content, to help them maybe recall some kind of prior learning. You're bringing that up from a part of their brain in their long-term memory, and that visual is going to help them. It's going to clarify that for them a little bit more. And sometimes when you're drawing attention to new content, it's to establish a hierarchy. That's used in an outlining technique like I have on this page here, where the sort of the important bullet points are out to the left-hand side. They're also larger and bolded, and all of that is telling the learners that they sort of start with that and then they move over into sort of these more sub areas, and that's establishing hierarchy. And sometimes you can use it to draw content so that you're integrating new information. And so maybe you're explaining one concept and then you're using some kind of visual in order to connect it to the next piece of information. So again, just another way that visuals can influence learning. And this final one is it could be used for optimizing motivation, or what they call edutainment. So definitely can sort of break up a mood, maybe even like the emoji activity that we did at the beginning. My only caution is to just use that sparingly, again, so it does not distract the learners. I'm going to take a quick look at our attendance. For those of you that maybe came in after the session initially started, we are now using a check-in system, self-check-in system for NIU folks. And so if you'd like to check yourself in, you can go ahead and do that. I'm adding a link into the area. Other than that, don't worry about it. I can just do the attendance from our list here. But as I kind of end on this idea of how it can influence visuals, I want to go over these basic principles in a little bit more detail, and maybe talk a little bit more about why you would use those visuals for these purposes. So the first one we've talked about, match visuals to instructional goals. And why? Because if you have visuals that are kind of matched up with your instructional goals and any of the sort of text that they're connected to, it will really help students encode that information and be able to bring that into their long-term memory a little bit more clearly, because they're seeing it in two different ways. They're seeing that visual, and they're reading the words. So anytime that you can kind of use a two-prong approach with that is going to help them to encode that memory into their brains. The second one is to avoid any misaligned visuals. And that's so that they're not going to be activating any inappropriate prior memory. If you put some sort of visual that seems to make a point but maybe is a little bit misaligned, they can become very distracted because their mind's focusing on that picture of the beach, and you wanted to show them how this information is going to come washing up over them, but what they're really thinking about is how they really would rather be at the beach than in this course. So try to make sure that you don't use misaligned visuals. Next, you might use visuals for spatial content. That context, that gives them it may just present information in a more concise way, something that may convey information in a nice graph rather than 3 or 4 paragraphs long of just sort of dense text. Visuals can definitely be used for that. Next, you may use visuals to depict relationships between two elements or even show cause and effect. If you use one visual to say, okay, if you do this, and the second visual is this is what will happen, that's another great way that you would want to use visuals in a course. Any kind of maybe procedure would be really great for visuals, and any other thing that might just paint them a better picture for what you're trying to explain, maybe in a text format. Visuals can also be used to engage students. It may show them that there's some activity coming up. It might help them interpret something if they're more of a visual learner, and kind of jumpstart their learning. Visuals are definitely a good way to do that. So I do want to pause because we went over some heavy stuff there and see if anyone has any comments on what we've gone over so far. Everything's good so far. Thank you, Janet. Jan, I also noticed that you are you used an agreement icon to show me what kind of mood you are in so far. So I'm glad we are in agreement. All right. Check that. Checks. Everybody is still good, and I think I paused long enough for you to add any text if you needed to, but again, feel free at any time to just go ahead and add text. So right now, I'm going to agree that we all are going to make good choices on why we would add images and icons. And now we're going to talk about how they could really add value to your course. And as I go through some of these things, I'm going to be kind of peppering in some tools that you might want to explore. And I'll add those into the text chat area, links to those, so you can kind of do a mini exploration, or at least maybe click on them and bookmark them to look at in more detail later. And I'm also going to tell you how each of these tools might be used to evaluate whether this is the best thing, this best tool this best type of image to use in your course as we go throughout these. And I kind of selected different points that I want to make and different tools that I think really help illustrate what I am talking about. So the first one, first image we're going to talk about is a photograph. I think it's one that we kind of naturally go to. And now in the world that we live in, we can all become brilliant photographers and easily create some of our own imagery. So I want to talk about a few different ways that we can create photographs or find photographs that we can put into our courses. And the first one is self-made. I've added photo credits to the side of all of these images. And the first one that's self-made is from my iPhone, and then I used one of those little filters, and I think I did sort of a old Polaroid filter look to it, so it's just kind of a little muted, a little fuzzy, and so if I make my own photograph, then obviously I can add it to my course easily. But this is the first sort of evaluation point I want to make. When you're looking for photographs to add to your course, you want to make sure that you have the right to share photographs. And that has to do with copyright and author's ownership of courses. So their materials, their images. And so I'm going to give you a couple ways that you can find images easily that you know that you can use in your course. Is everyone still hearing me okay? Because my thing was just spinning, so I want to make sure that they're great. Okay, so the second is to use an open source image. And the open source resource that I am going to suggest is called Pixabay. And I'm going to add that link into the text chat area. Pixabay has many, many free photographs. They also have some graphs that you can use to explore and find, again, open source photographs that you know that the creator has already kind of given you that permission to be able to use in your course. So I highly recommend Pixabay. Lots of good resources, one of my favorites to find things in. This particular open source resource that I found was designated as part of the public domain, so I definitely know that I can use this image in a variety of ways. This third image here is free stock, and so you'll be able to find some free stock out there. You'll be able to download images if you look for free stock images. This particular one is from a group called eLearning Heroes. And so we actually here in faculty development just downloaded a bunch of those free images, and it allows us to just credit the creator of the image, but then we can kind of add it to any of our content. So there's 3 ideas that you can use to create and add photographs to your course. The next thing I want to talk about is the value of these transformational videos. And so here's 3 different types of images that are trying to portray the same sort of action. And I talked about how this can images can definitely convey action for your students. So here's the 3 different ones. We have very similar images over here on the left side. One is a line drawing with text. So steps 1 and step 2 have some text behind them. The same image here, second descriptor says line drawings with arrows. So there's not as much text, there's just these arrows. So the arrow is conveying the action rather than the text. And then the third is actually a screenshot, but it's a video that you could embed into your course that would show that same activity of kind of dressing. Looks like a sprained wrist here. So any of these visuals could show students an activity that you would like them to know about. My question to you, and an evaluation of these three different types of visuals, what do you think would have the most impact on the students? Video? Video. The video. Audience level will help to determine which type of image to use, detailed versus less detailed, statistics versus static versus moving. Okay, lots of videos. So the research that I pulled this from, which was Mishas and Berry in 2000, showed that actually all three of them had the same level of impact on the students. So they all worked very well for the students. So I guess what I'm saying is I know, surprise! Surprise our wow face, Zoe. So it is interesting that all of them seem to work really well. I think they probably all adhered to that different technique of still being very simple in nature and still showing activity. And it also has a very good purpose to it. It's definitely meant to show how to sort of dress this injury. So I thought that was sort of interesting. The next type of image I'd like to talk about is graphs or graphics. And a couple different styles of graphics here. A couple of things I want to point out is to, even if you know it's open source, to try to give attribution or credit for where you're finding these. These also help the students know where they can find similar types of graphs. And the first one that I found this graphic of the Berlin Wall is from Wikipedia Commons. I'm going to add that source into the text chat area. Great way, again, to find that sort of open source graphics that you might want to add into your course. So feel free to explore that. And that this Berlin Wall, West Berlin, East Berlin, is nice. It's very simple. It shows exactly what the students need without a lot of distractions, like the buildings over on the side are just kind of these blocks. And that hierarchy, the focal area, is clearly looking at the wall itself. The second one is a graphic from the psychological foundations of concept maps, and I actually found that at oercommons.org. And OER is Open Educational Resources, so there's all kinds of resources in that tool, but it's really nice to also find some of these graphics. The interesting thing about any kind of imagery that you add to your courses, it can be distracting, but part of the reason it can be distracting is because it's been shown that students want to try to figure out what the graphic means. And so they need to use a little mindfulness when they look at a graph, and that's making them kind of dig a little bit deeper and start those brain waves firing and synapses is firing a little bit. So this graphic, if you look at it, and you're probably already looking at it and going, what does this mean, and why are the arrows moving in both directions, and it's kind of starting to have your mind move a little bit, and that's another great way to influence your students' learning with graphics. Oop, sorry, I'm dropping pens on the floor here in the office. graphics can also, again, show that relationship between things. And this graphic here that does have the arrows, we can definitely see relationships between these concepts by using a graphic like this. And I know Janet has lots of information on concept maps. She uses them. She does a few workshops on concept maps, and concept maps in general are another great way of just introducing imagery and visuals into a course. The next one might be a little bit more of that edutainment type image, and but I think the millennials, if you're teaching millennials, this is part of their world, and that's using a meme. So memes are supposed to be visuals that kind of can take a life of their own on, and they're fairly easy to create. And Kava is the tool that I use to create these images. Kava is one of, you can create all kinds of things with Kava. They allow you to do a certain amount for free, and then they're going to look for a subscription or something like that. So it's definitely one of those things that if you think it might be of value to you, explore it a little bit kind of on the free end, and then it might inspire you maybe to be able to go a little bit deeper. But in this case, I've created a visual using a picture, and then I've added some text over top of it. In this case, I used it at the beginning of this workshop, but I've brought it back here again, and I said, if Tracy can, so can you. So maybe that's a motivational tool for your students that you just kind of want to be a little bit of a cheerleader for them, and give them a little bit of inspiration on that little bit of extra push. Corinne, we have created what society thinks it means at the adolescent literacy as a summation activity. Yeah, I think that, and we're going to talk about students creating their own sort of memes and things, but I think it's something that they can kind of grab onto because memes are such a big part of their world now. Great example, thank you. The second meme doesn't have a picture behind it, but it's a very familiar type of look of a meme, but I just used it to as maybe a push or an inspiration to get an assignment done on time. So maybe you're adding this into an announcement or something else to kind of, again, draw that attention to it because it's something that the students might find interesting because it's a meme. But in this case, this one says 14 more days, hashtag draft due. And so that might just give them that push that they need to really work on an assignment that's coming up. Again, does fall into that education a little bit, but I think it does have a good motivational purpose in those cases. The next one is to consider using comics or cartoons in your online course. And in the top one here, I've created our cartoon entitled Reducing Your Carbon Footprint. I have a background in environmental science, so I tend to gravitate towards that when I'm creating different anythings, really, different examples when I do workshops. In this case, I've used Pixon, so I will add that to the text chat area if you're interested in exploring more with Pixon. And there's a bunch of templates that you can create and then just kind of customize them to meet the purpose of your course. Again, something that students can do if they want to create comics or cartoons to demonstrate their knowledge of something. Actually, Corinne, I think in your literacy education groups, this would be something that they might be really interested in doing. Again, you have that text and that visual that I think would be really powerful. Again, allowing those students, their brains to interact with it a little bit more. And it's an incomplete cartoon, by the way, but I just wanted a quick screenshot for you all to be able to look at. The next one is one that someone else created, Canyon Cunningham. And he labeled, I'm assuming Canyon, I shouldn't assume Canyon's a male, but I always say I have two sons, so the pronoun I always just naturally go to is he. Canyon has labeled this particular comment as reuse with modification. And so I know that I can use this with my students here, but I wanted to make sure Canyon still got credit for it. Jan, if students make a cartoon, how would they upload it to Blackboard in a group setting? We're going to talk about how you would upload it into Blackboard at the end, but you've asked now, so I'm going to give you the kind of the quick explanation. And that is anywhere you see the text editor, almost everywhere that you see the text editor, there's an icon, and it's sort of that typical looks like a picture of a mountain with a sun behind it. And the students can click on that and they can add their cartoon if they've saved it as a picture. The other option is they could link it somewhere. So they could create, maybe they have a repository of cartoons somewhere, maybe still in Pixton, and they're just going to link it in Blackboard, and then you or the other students can click on that link and go to the comic. Does that make sense? Okay, awesome. Okay, the other evaluation tool thought I wanted to add to this particular image is that anytime you add an image, and I want you to encourage your students to add an image, they'll be asked to add an image description to that particular image, whether it's in a PowerPoint or if you're adding it into Blackboard. And so do that. That's for accessibility purposes for students with any sort of vision impairment. And so adding that image description is really important for those students that do have those accessibility needs. So don't forget to do that. It can be difficult to add them sort of all at once, so just get in the habit of adding that image description when you're inserting images into anything. Okay, so we're going to switch gears a little bit, and instead of talking about images, we're going to talk more about icons. And so why do we use icons? And I have to be honest, when I originally thought about what I wanted to do for this, I thought icons were going to be really easy. And I thought, no, I really need to know why we add icons to our course. And so I did a little bit of research on that, and what I found is that icons are really used to define an action, identify a category, or even symbolize something. And I originally did this presentation in PowerPoint, and I also found out that I can really change up my bullet points. And so I just want to kind of have a call out here to how I used a found icon. And I'll tell you where I found it in just a few minutes to really change up my my bullet points. Again, maybe to symbolize something. There may be more meaning if I change up my bullet points depending on what I choose, and again, what that purpose is. Now, because this is a very general slide, I picked a very generic type of bullet point. I really could have kept it as just the normal dot bullet point. But again, I kind of wanted to make a point with how you can really customize, even in PowerPoint, what those bullet points look like. The first set of icons I want to talk about is the new Blackboard icons. So over Memorial Day weekend, we had our annual upgrade of Blackboard. And if you've already been in there, you might have noticed the new icons. But if you haven't, I took a bunch of them and added them in here so that we can kind of notice them together. They look slightly different. They're a little bit more simplistic, I think. They're very sort of subtle, but icons, can define an action, identify a category, or symbolize something. And that's exactly what the intention is with Blackboard icons. I think of define action, the discussion icon. That's definitely an activity, and the fact that it's showing sort of these two speech bubbles, is showing that sort of interactivity and that idea that you're sort of talking to one another. Identify a category. That could be maybe even something like the groups icon, that's a category that is either a whole course kind of activity, or this particular category is a group area. And then symbolizing something, I think they're all sort of symbolizing something, whether it be that what this is a test, or this is a folder, and we have that implication that, a folder needs to be opened and there's more inside of it. And so all of these Blackboard icons were really built for that idea, and they do modernize them from time to time, which is what I think you'll see in kind of this new version of Blackboard. But a very important aspect of this new version of Blackboard is it's really been meant to be more mobile responsive now. And we know that more and more students and us John was accessing the session today with his mobile device. More and more is happening in this mobile world. And so the icons, this view you see here, is that the icons look similar, almost exactly the same really, between the web browser and what it would look like in a mobile version. So this is actually a screenshot taken from my mobile phone. And the students can see that consistency. They can see that anything that's over here, which is a blog post, is going to look the same between the web browser and their mobile version. And that is true also with a wiki. The two wiki icons are looking the same. And then the reflection journal. Jackie, how can you replace the default Blackboard icons? You cannot change the Blackboard default icons. If you would like to use your own icons, what you can do is at the top of any of your content screens, right next to whatever you've labeled it. So let's say it's, this folder icon that I have up here is a folder. Let's say I've named the folder Week 1. Next to Week 1, you can select a drop-down menu, and it'll allow you to basically hide the icons. So if you want to hide the icons, then what you would do is you would replace the icons by adding your own icon as a picture. So that would mean that, you know, you could just add a very small icon as a picture, and that's what they would see instead of the Blackboard icons. The reason that I said that that you can't, I guess you can the way I just described it, but the problem will be is then you will have a discrepancy between what they see in the mobile application and what they see in the web browser. In the web browser, they would not see the icon, but they would still see it in this mobile version. And that could be an explanation that you just give your students too, that, you know, they'll see something different in the mobile version. Um, and maybe that'll be enough, especially if it's a visual that's really important. Maybe it's topic specific and you're kind of describing what the topic is by the visual. I think that makes complete sense. And let me know if that answers your question, Jackie. Awesome. Okay. So where do you find these icons? So here's a couple ideas for you. And the first one is called the Noun Project. And I'm going to add that link. Oh, hold on, I'm adding the wrong link. Do, do, do. The link I almost gave you was that I just found out that the Noun Project has added an add-on to PowerPoint, and I literally just found out about it. So I have not been able to explore it that much, but it looks like you will be able to kind of find images while you're in Blackboard, not Blackboard, I'm sorry, in PowerPoint, and just add them into your PowerPoint without even going to the Noun Project site. So I will give you that information too, in case you want to do more exploring about using the Noun Project directly in your PowerPoint. And then you can tell me about how it's working. But again, the Noun Project is great for finding free icons and symbols. They do have a subscription fee if you want to do something like add different colors to them. So for instance, in this imagery here, everything is sort of the black and white imagery. This subscription will allow you to be able to pick a variety of colors of these same images. I use a Noun Project on some of the icons that you've already seen, including that one that was my bullet point. So I basically went into PowerPoint and found that image, and so any of the Noun Project icons can be used as your bullet points when you're creating a PowerPoint. So really liked using that. Free Pick is another one. Free Pick is actually a place that you can find vector images really easily, and and packs of vector images. So maybe a whole collection of things that it makes sense to you. It might be a little bit more discipline specific to you if that pack makes more sense to you. So I definitely wanted to share a couple of those resources with you. What do I mean by a vector image? Their images are going to have a transparency behind them, so you can lay them over anything else and you're not going to get kind of that blocked out view. Vector images are also very easy to enlarge or shrink down without losing the quality of the graphic. So you might have noticed that if you've selected an image in the past, And it's when you copy it, it's really small, so you try to stretch it out, make it big, and all of a sudden it's very pixelated. A vector image is going to solve that problem for you. We are in the last 9 minutes, but I think we're still in a good place for what I have left to show you. So where are we putting these images? We can definitely put them in any of our lectures or presentations. I think that the most common that we use here is PowerPoint, and then we have a few folks that like to use Prezi. So those are a couple places that you could definitely incorporate any of the visuals that we've talked about. In your Blackboard course, you can use them in course banners at the top of your course. You can create your course banners in PowerPoint. That's actually what we recommend here. Just kind of create a long, narrow image and add them into your course banners. You can add them in by building content and just select the image. We've talked about adding them into other pieces of content already, thanks to Jan, because she had that question. Corinne adds images regularly in module pages to build up information. Yes, you can absolutely use them in module pages. They can almost be a section header. It's kind of letting your learners know that something has changed and there's new information coming forward. How do you create a course banner? Once you have an image that you like as a course banner, you actually add it to the customization teaching style area. So that would be in your left-hand navigation under the course management area. And I can definitely give you some more information, Corinne, on how to do that. I think for your particular program, we can also come up with maybe even a common image so that all of the students in your program, it has a similar look, but it's also like slightly different because it's a different course. Yes, so absolutely. You can add images to your text questions. Sometimes I surprise people with that, but thank you, Janet, for adding some information about banners. If you have any type of question that would lend itself well to having what do you see above, you can add images in there. Any of these things are actually added through the text editor. So anywhere you see a text editor should be able to add an image to. The exception to that I've seen is I have not seen you able to add students to be able to add it to their answers. So if they wanted, you had a multiple choice question and you wanted to have them pick out 4 different images, I have not seen that yet. The final one that I kind of wanted to talk about is adding Flickr photos as a mashup tool. And mashup tool you'll see in a variety of areas. For instance, if you just were creating or building content, you're going to see a mashup, which is a place that you can also select a YouTube video. So Flickr photos are there. You can add anything into a search, and the search will pull up everything that Flickr has that matches a search. So over here on the right-hand side, I added a search I'd done for pandas, and a variety came up. I was specifically looking for the license or the attribution so that I knew that, again, I had that right to use this image with my students. You can preview it, see if you like it, then select it, add it into your course. It's a really easy way when you're already in Blackboard to add some imagery. Thanks, Janet, for adding the mashup things. You are a great resource today. Finally, student work. Students can do a lot of these things, and it gives them that opportunity to show something in a different way that maybe makes a little bit more sense to them. So a couple ideas here. On the left-hand side, I have a couple examples of my students' work that I've asked them to share. In the top one, Nicole actually used Story Jumper, and so she created a storybook that demonstrated using the tool. It was actually how to use Story Jumper, but then just created that link for me to be able to see her story in Story Jumper. And this has a bunch of opportunities. You can see there's some icons in here, there's some photographs, and there's text. I don't know if Nicole used the best example. It's a little, maybe a little too many icons in here, but it gave her that opportunity to kind of share things in a different way with me. Below here, Kayla was telling me in a blog post about her fitness app she uses. So this is actually a mobile app. She shared some screenshots with me to show me how the mobile app could be used and how she used it in her life. And then finally, you can also use the Blackboard portfolios with your students. The students can add artifacts to their portfolios, and they can use any of these visuals that we've already talked about. In particular, I just threw together a few artifacts into my Blackboard portfolio, but I have to give credit to my son Bailey because he's a graphic artist, and he actually created this Monopoly board. So this Monopoly board created in this certain Art Deco style is not my work. It's actually the work of my son. But your students can do this. They can add their artifacts, their visuals to their portfolio, and then share their portfolios with you. Uh-oh. Zoe's left the session. Hopefully she can toggle back in here. But here she comes. But we really are at the end of our session anyway, so I want to make sure that I share with you my contact information. Here is my email address, but also if you'd like to follow me on Twitter, it's Tracy Miller 256. Other than that, I'm just open for questions now. Glad to see you back, Zoe. Good to see you again, Jan. You're welcome. Great, thank you, everyone. I'll send you a recording in the next couple days. Everyone, enjoy your afternoon. Thank you so much for